I think we just found the Rockstar's dream IEM. And this is it. Let's begin. Welcome back, Audiophiles. It's me, your boy Joe, back again with another video, and this time we'll be looking at the CJ20. Now, this is a new IEM off the block, and this is from Roseselsa in collaboration with Andy Audio Vault. So the CJ20 in essence is actually a planar IEM, and this one is more in tune with rock-oriented songs and the such. So this one is supposedly for all the rock heads out there, and this one is made in collaboration with Andy as well. So that's also another good thing where he's the one who tuned it because he likes rock music in general. So disclaimer, this CJ20 has been given to me from the Audio Geek group along with the help of Roseselsa and Andy himself. So a huge thanks to Andy, Roseselsa as well as Audio Geek for sponsoring this unit to me. In terms of pricing, the Roseselsa Andy Audio Vault CJ20 is available in the Roseselsa store for the price of $169 as of the time of this video. With all that said, let's begin. So in terms of unboxing, it's pretty nice. The box has a lot of branding, as you can see, in all sides of it, as well as the specs in the back. In terms of specs, we are looking at an impedance of 24 ohms with a sensitivity of 102 dB. Opening the box, we see that we're once again greeted with CJ20 in a silverish design. This CJ20, I believe, is actually from the thing that it's a kind of an airplane. I will give you the specification of that airplane in here, but Andy has called it the CJ20 in recognition of that particular airplane. So that's a little bit of a good tidbit there. And once you open the flap, you will see the IEM perched up in here. You can see a beautiful design of the different parts of the IEM and the accessory boxes in here. Without any further ado, here is a close-up of the IEM. Take a good look. So as you can see, I took the gunmetal version. It's really good. It's pretty snazzy and it's having the kind of vented design. So I presume this vented design is to help with the soundstage, but we'll see more of that in the sound impressions. But so far the IEM looks really nice and clean with a kind of circlish design elements to it, and it's made out of metal, so that's also a nice touch. And in terms of the ear hooks for the cable is pretty nice. The ear hook is pretty sturdy. We are having that kind of paracorded cable. And moving along from there, we are having a very good chin slider, which is aesthetically matching the Y split. So that's a very good plus for me. I really like it. And it's a functional chin slider, so that's a bonus. The Y split itself has Rose Techniques as a logo on it. And then from there, we have another twirl braided cable, which then moves on to a modular jack. So you could change this from 4.4 to 3.5, and that's a really nice touch to it. The cable itself is matching the aesthetics of the IEM, which is gunmetal for me, and I kind of like it. This cable is really good, well behaved, a little bit on the stiff side if I were to say it, a little bit of a nitpick, but on the whole, pretty nice cable, so I kind of like it. In terms of accessories, we are given with two sets of ear tips. One is a wide bore, so you can have even more enhanced air and treble, and one is a narrow bore if you want to have a bit of an extra bass with a softened treble overall. And in terms of the pouch, we are having this particular leatherette pouch. This pouch is pretty much similar to the other pouches that I've seen in other Roseselsa items that I have reviewed in this channel, and it has the same drawback in which it's pretty much congested. If you do put the IEMs inside, it's pretty good. This one works pretty well. The cable does coil up really well, but if you change the cable to some thicker cable, or if you want to put a DAC along with it, you're not going to have enough space in this particular pouch. So it's a bit of a squeeze in here. That's what I don't like about it, but other than that, it's a good pouch, but just not enough space for an IEM and a DAC to sit inside. So with all that said, let's go for a fit test of the CJ20. Fit-wise, it's really comfortable. I had no issues with the fit overall, and in terms of the ear tips, I did use the narrow bore, and I find that to be pretty good and comfortable for me. But for me, the best seal was with the DD Hi-Fi ST35, which is pretty good. It has that kind of spin fit-like feel to it, and it's a narrow bore. I really did prefer narrow bore with this thing. So in terms of narrow bore performance, this is pretty similar to the stock narrow bore that you're getting in here, but this one is much more better in terms of fit and seal for me. So that's what I'm going to be using for my review, but take whatever I say similar to that of the narrow bore ear tips of the CJ20. And as for the wide bore, I didn't use it much. I kind of didn't like it, and you will know why in the sound impressions as we go along. This is the right side, and this is the left side. So fit wise, it's really good. It's pretty comfortable for me. I had no issues with it on the long run as well. And with that said, let's move on to the sound impressions. So moving on to the sound impressions, as usual, we'll be looking at the frequency response graph of the CJ20. And as usual with all the disclaimers, the frequency response graph is not the be all end all of IEMs. In fact, Andy himself has mentioned in terms of the CJ20 that it's not frequency response graph oriented approach. It's more in tune to how he listens to rock and what he feels to change in between the different peaks and the different frequencies. So take whatever I say with a huge grain of salt. And in fact, Andy himself said that don't pretty much look at the frequency response graph when it comes to the CJ20. So with all that said, let's just look at how it does graph out to be. And as you could see that it does have a pretty V-shaped like tuning, but with some extra hinges here and there. In terms of the sub bass, you could see it's a really nice sub bass which goes towards the mids, and from the mids we have 3 oriented peaks in there. So I believe those peaks are in charge of how Andy perceives for the rock and the different things that he wanted in it. It's also in line with a very high sense of air and presence. And the first peak is in line with the vocal centric peak. So it's vocal plus a kind of a peak in air and presence region, which is probably in tune with the kind of rock guitars that he listens to, and he wants to highlight that particular guitar frequencies. So that's how I perceive this graph to be. But in terms of that, it does have a high sense of treble and presence overall. I wouldn't go as to say that it is super sharp or anything, but it does teeter a little bit towards the peakiness when it comes to the different songs. If you are listening to rock songs, it does synergize so well. And by rock songs, I have blasted this with all the Linkin Park songs I have. I have Manifest, I have 1000 Foot Crutch. So these are the best rock artists that I listen to. I also listen to a little bit of Christian rock, so that's also pretty nice. And they all worked really well on the CJ20. In terms of versatility, if you do put this on some EDM tracks, you get a good sense of synergized bass performance as well as the higher end vocals and instruments. The instruments does teeter towards that slight sharpness and peakiness, and it does perceive to me in that aspect as well. But overall, the sound structure works nice and well. If you do run this with something like orchestral or something, or maybe classic and jazz or those kind of mellow expected sounds and instruments, then this thing does kind of de-synergize, I would say, where the music feels a little bit off, where some of the instruments feels more louder than it should be, or some of the instruments really does get hyped up because of that high air and presence region that's in the graph. So it is totally as per the boat, where if you want a rock-oriented IEM, this is for you. If your songs is totally opposite to what you expect from rock, then probably the CJ20 will not synergize well with those kind of songs. So with all that said, let's try different songs and move on to song impressions to give you the rundown on rock songs and not rock songs. So moving on to song impressions, as usual, all the songs that I'm listening to, I'll be giving it to you in the form of an Apple Music playlist, which is down in the description below, so you can listen to the songs that I'm listening to. So with all that said, let's move on to the first song. And the first song is going to be In the End by Linkin Park. You can't have a rock song without Linkin Park in it, and hence it's the topmost song in there. And it's one of my favorite songs from Linkin Park, where it has really good sense of guitar, vocals, as well as the bass line. The bass line is something which I really enjoy in this. Coming to a little quick detour of the drivability, I am using this with the Gustard stack, and this is running at in fact 56 in the volume scale. It does require a good sense of power to drive well, and the Gustard is powering up pretty fine for me. So if you want the best results from the CJ20, you better use some good high power gear to drive it to its fullest extent. If you do use lower power gear, you might end up with a more sharper tone in the treble, which is even more than it already is, and the bass line would not be to the thump that you would require. So with that, let's talk about Linkin Park and the song. This one, it is done so well. I could see the fact that it is much more in tune with the rock-oriented songs, in which it is more in the vocals. The guitar really shines. The electric guitar is picked up so well. That is where the CJ20 is giving its focus, where the guitar is tuned, the air, the presence, as well as the stereo effect. So the stereo effects and soundstage is actually pretty good in the CJ20, and even then with that, the vocals is forward. The vocals is nice and clear and forward, but with all the other electric guitars and the drums. So the drums snares is where that particular shine is. So it is teetering a little bit on the high to my comfort level at least, but then I don't consider myself as a treble head, so I don't want to put it against it. But people who are rock head and would like that, no, I would not say piercing, but then would like the very strong snares and kick drums and the vocals, would find this really enjoyable. So that's what I will call for the CJ20, where it's more snare focused, kick drums, and the higher frequency instruments overall. But the bass is not totally down. The bass is still there. The sub bass is pretty good. I do feel the tastefully done sub bass of the bass guitars and the bass drums, which is pretty nice. The bass line is still present in here, which I really enjoyed. And that's what gave the whole song its particular body. So overall, the really good song, done really well, in fact perfectly well with the CJ20. So the next song that we're going to look at is Physical by Dua Lipa. Now this one is a pop song, so I thought of checking how pop songs work with the rock oriented IM that the CJ20 is. And to my surprise, the pop song is doing pretty well. It does synergize pretty well in pop oriented songs, because pop and rock is having that kind of synergizing together in adolescence at least. And with that in mind, the song is having a really good bass line. The bass sub bass rumble is felt pretty well. I did like the kind of sub bass rumble that this one is rendering the CJ20, and it was pretty deep. It was enveloping, so that was pretty nice. I wouldn't call it so as to say super thumpy or anything, but it does give that rumble and the sensation, so it's really nice in that aspect. The vocals is once again pretty forward. The vocals is female vocals in this case, so it is pretty forward. There are some high frequency instruments present in this, and that one is feeling pretty comfortable actually. I didn't feel so much as a peakiness or any kind of weird sensation in that sense. So I really did like the way that it was rendering the different high frequency instruments. It gave very good clarity for it. The separation was really well done in here. So overall, really good song, and CJ20 is doing pretty well for even pop oriented songs such as Physical. So really good song, done really well with the CJ20. Alright, so the last one we're going to be looking at is Warriors by Askata and Nathan Chaim. So this one is a dubstep style DJ oriented song, which I really do like, because the bass line is once again an awesome bass line. I'm always a guy who's after good bass lines in songs. And Askata and Chain, MIME, and Requens. So there's a bunch of artists in this one. As for how the CJ20 did, well, I would say that it was a little bit of a mixed one in this one, because the bass is wonderful. The bass is done really well with the CJ20. Very good rhythm, very good thump, very good tactile feeling in the bass, and it gives that enveloping sensation. In terms of the vocals, this one is male vocal, in fact rap I could call it, and the rap was very clean, very crystal clean in fact, and I would say that it is picked up really well with all the details. But in here there are some sound effects. There's actually some like gun style sound effects, gunshots, weaponry kind of sound effects in it. So these guns sound effects and everything is all high frequency focused, and the CJ20 is kind of rendering that to a higher extent and then pushing it so far front. It feels a little bit artificial and unnatural. So it does come to the point like, why is this particular sound effect in here? It's just so built up so high, and that is what I feel different about it. The overall other instruments, the synths, they're all done pretty well, but just because the way that the CJ20 is, it gives more importance to those particular frequencies, which pushes it right the way high, and that is something that it probably didn't expect, so it kind of rendered it a little bit off. I wouldn't go as far as to say that it's pretty bad in the rendering. I would say that it is pushed up to a way that I felt like it felt unnatural and a bit artificial listening to it, since I listen to the song so often, and then I feel this particular thing pushed higher. It just felt a little bit different to me. So not bad, but I would say different. So that's how I felt it. Really good song, done okay, I would say, for the CJ20. So what are my overall impressions for the Roseselsa Andy Audio Vault CJ20? Well, first and foremost, the package is pretty good. The comfort and the metal shell is really nice. I really liked how it was comfortable, and the cable is really good cable. I would not say that the best cables in the world, but I would go as to say that it is much better than in the particular cable in the competitions, considering that this is $170. So it's a pretty good cable, modular, well aesthetic, so I like it. So it ticks all of those particular boxes. In terms of the sound, I would say that this one, as says on the tin, totally rock oriented. It was really good, and it does synergize with things which are close to rock. So for me, I would say that hip hop, rap, and a couple of EDMs just works pretty well with this. I wouldn't say that this works well with everything across the board. Maybe things like orchestra, melody based, and like some of the high end dance instruments or dance focused songs does render a little bit differently when you're listening it to the CJ20. So with that in mind, I would say that it's not going to be a versatile one, but that's what you are signing up for. If you are taking a CJ20, you're a person who loves rock, you want to listen to rock oriented songs, or songs which are very closely resembling in a rock format. So with that in mind, what would I think of the CJ20? Well, it ticks all of those boxes. It does say what it works on in the tin, and it gives that much more beneficial rock flavor, rock oriented synergy, and that is something I really like about it. So in terms of rating, I really don't have much to complain about it, since I'm a person who has a little bit of a versatile set of songs and I would like to listen to many different songs. Like 1 minute I'll listen to melody, the other minute I'll listen to rock, but then I'll go back to some dance music. So with that in mind, what would I think about the CJ20? Well, for the rock songs that I had, perfect. So I could even go as to say that this will be 5 out of 5 for that. Just in my case, this one is teetering a little bit close to that sharpness, sibilance factor when you play songs with high frequency instruments overall in it. So only with that in mind, I would say that my rating for the CJ20 is going to be 4.5 out of 5. But that is just on my own preference level, because I'm a person who listens to different songs without much of that high frequency instruments in it. And I don't prefer high frequency instruments to be pushed high. So I don't prefer the treble and the air region pushed so high for me. So that's only my preference region. But in that aspect, if you're a person who loves rock songs, then by all means you could get this, and it's really good in that aspect. So Andy hit it right out of the ball with that. Excellent work, Andy. So that'll be my review for the AAV Roseselsa CJ20. Do let me know what are your thoughts and impressions down in the comments below. Are you getting a CJ20? How is it working for you? What songs are you listening to? What's your favorite rock song? Let me know that as well in the comments below. And until then, this is Joe, and if you do like my videos, give me a thumbs up. If you don't like my videos, give me a thumbs down. I don't know. Until then, this is Joe, and I would see you in the next review. Peace.